Hello, my name is Helmke, and this is my domestic motors roadmap. Here's a table of contents of what I'm going to go through during this presentation. So many of you may be asking, what is a roadmap? And a change roadmap uses strategic navigation system as a guide during organization change from start to finish. By using this method, you can customize the change to fit your specific needs and your desired outcomes. So for domestic motors, this is vital to a successful change as there are multiple deliverables that need to be met and multiple different departments that have specialized skills. So by using a change roadmap, the training can be tailored to each department and meet the specific needs. So the purpose and outcomes for this change, the purpose is to improve the performance of the existing teams in the machining department by achieving desired performance goals. Once those goals are met, then we're going to implement teams throughout the remainder of the plant. The whole end goal by achieving this purpose is for the plant to gain the ability to competitively seek and acquire new work in order for the plant to stay viable. So the desired outcomes set by the domestic motors leadership are as follows. Then we need to achieve desired performance outcomes in machining, implement teams plant-wide, implement team leaders, create a supportive environment for teams, provide evaluation of team performance, develop both team and team leader training materials, deliver that training, and provide a transition plan for plant management at the end of implementation. So who are the key stakeholders in this? Well, our consulting team will work with domestic motors leaders at all levels, union leaders at all levels, and from each department, we're going to work with supervisors, hourly leaders, and the employees. And some of you may be thinking, why so many people? Why are all these people key stakeholders? We need input from all levels in order to really structure this change so that it works. So I need to know what the KPIs are from leadership, but I also need to know from the employees how the system currently works. They're the backbone of this. They're the persons that are on the floor doing the work, and by asking questions at all levels, we can tailor a plan that will ensure success for the organization. So here is a general roadmap of how this change is going to happen. So phase one, we're going to come in, we're going to evaluate, we're going to get the startings of the project. Phase two, we are going to define the project. We're going to break it down and start getting the planning ready. Phase three, we're going to launch the project. So we're going to implement that training within machining. Phase four, we're going to look at that training. How did it work? What should we change? What do we need to adjust? What did work? What didn't work? We're going to take all that data and restructure if needed so that we can implement that changing throughout the plant. Phase five is the closing. So this is where we create that transition plan that should be sustainable for a long period of time. So here is a detailed roadmap of what will happen. As you can see, the 5 phases are all on the left-hand side, and then chronologically, it's all laid out going left from right with markers that show you when the phases are complete. And then every single step has a time frame of when it will happen. Some of them overlap, some of them don't. Some things need to happen before the next step happens, but it is all laid out here so you can see what happens all throughout this year. I also wanted to break down the phases because I thought if I put this information on the prior chart, it just got too messy and you couldn't really see what was happening. So this chart breaks down the deliverables, who the steering team is, the needs for each phase, and the strategy. Why are we doing what we're doing in this phase? The strategy should also match up with those deliverables. So that strategy should be the work that needs to be done to obtain that deliverable. So for instance, we want the KPIs that we need to get from the domestic leaders, but we're going to use those KPIs when we develop that training material. So everything balances all the parts of this here. So whole system change, it's a big undertaking. It requires detailed planning, and some of these whole system changes take years. So just imagine having to do this over multiple years. It's going to have to be detailed, it's going to have to be structured. You need to understand the organization you're working with. You have to get input from every single level. And by doing this, you increase your knowledge and you gain the trust and respect of the employees. And too many times change is initiated without gaining all that input, and that causes the change to fail, and then you create mistrust amongst your employees and the leadership. They're not going to trust leadership if this is how they're going to try to initiate change. And by utilizing a roadmap for that detailed planning and action research beforehand, you coordinate and keep your initiatives on track, but you also enable you to take a deep dive into the inner workings. And this level of understanding allows for planning that's specific to the organization to meet their needs and goals. So by taking those steps and doing all that work, you can assure that whole system change is viable and sustainable. I'll leave you with this quote here. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Henry Ford.